we'll move on to the head coaches, one that will coach him tonight and one that will try to slow down Luka tonight. And maybe we can talk Chris Finch into making sure Luka gets some minutes tonight. I think that's something we might be able to talk him into. But these next two gentlemen have coached nearly 750 NBA games combined in their career. They've won nearly 450 of them, a very high win percentage. Between them, they have an NBA title. They've got 3 D-League titles. There's a Belgian title in there, and they've got more coaching honors and all-star coaching things than I could. Another rabbit hole, try going on the Wikipedia page of these two guys. Nick Nurse, the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, and Chris Finch, the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. How you doing, Nick? Good to see you. Yeah. Welcome. Feel good to be back?
Yeah. Been here for a couple days.
Yeah, you brought your team in 2 days ago?
Yeah, we brought them in Wednesday, and we practiced out at Grandview yesterday. Went to my hometown of Carroll.
I heard there was some...
After practice, played a little golf.
I heard there was golf involved, yeah. How's your team on the golf course?
Well, the golf course is getting a lot of attention today.
Yeah.
Refixing things up, but they have fun. They were taking some good rips at it. I told them, don't get cheated, and they weren't. As hard as they could.
Well, if they were better than what they do on the basketball court, then you'd probably have a problem. But
that's the coaching staff's problem. The coaching staff was really good yesterday golfing.
Oh.
They spend more time coaching.
How was their radio guy, Tom McGinnis?
Tom was good. Tom was good.
All right, good. Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
The Iowa Wolves are the G League team of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't know how often you've played during the season, so you never get a chance to come down here. But good to be here. It takes you back a few years, doesn't it?
Well, the last time I was here, I got my ass kicked by Nick in the finals. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure I want to come back.
You headed that off at the pass there. The last time. So tonight will be your first game on that floor since 2011.
Yes.
When you get matched up against the Iowa Energy and Nick Nurse.
Yes. Yeah. We. As you mentioned on our way up here, we have a long-standing rivalry. We go way, way back. We played a lot of really important games. They were, important in our world anyway at the time, and it was pretty cool. My last game in the G League was here, Game 3 of the finals, and I just remember 2 sellout crowds and 2 really good games. So.
How did this game come to be? Preseasons are kind of hectic. Teams make schedules. They travel all over the place. How did you guys pull this off?
I think, we always want to come down here and be supportive in any way possible, and to come down here and have a preseason game for our fan base here, fairly regularly is important to us. And then when we were lining it up, one of the first people I thought that would enjoy coming home would be Nick. So I called him, and I think he rearranged their entire preseason to come down here. And let me just say, I also realize where I stand in the pecking order. Like, Nick is from Iowa. He's very, very proud of being from Iowa. Luka is a legend born of Iowa, and I'm in Iowa right now, so I realize where this...
Nick, you guys have run the gamut here in the preseason. You were in the Bahamas to start training camp, correct? From the Bahamas to a home game against the New Zealand Breakers, and then to Iowa. You trying to give your team the full scope of different places in the world?
Yep. We like to travel, but that's part of... Chris made it sound really simple how this game came about, but I had to do a lot of negotiating. Going to the Bahamas might have been part of, we go there first, come here next. But it's warmer here than it was in the Bahamas, so we got that going for us today.
So the bill for that Bahamas trip might end up going across the decks of Ryan Tanke, maybe?
I doubt it, but it was a good time. But we're happy to be here.
Let's start with the G League in and of itself. Like, you guys both have experience here, you have experience overseas. How important is that for an organization? What does it mean to you?
Well, listen, we're very similar paths and stories. We just were like, we thought we'd go to the Mecca of all basketball, England, to start our careers and learn how to coach. And we just were young coaches who loved coaching, right? Had a passion for it. And we wound up at a young age with coaching these pro teams over there. And like he said, we were going at it like crazy. He'd win it one year, I'd win it the next, he'd win it. We were always like 1-2 in the league, it seemed like, for forever. And then this coming about, like I always say, I wouldn't be sitting here doing this game or being in Philly without the Iowa Energy. So they kind of we started this team from scratch, right? When I was here in like '07, and then he was still coaching in Europe, and I was like, this is a really good league, Chris. Like, and then he ended up kind of connecting some dots and ended up down at Rio Grande Valley. And but for me, and I'm sure for Chris, like we just loved coaching. The experience of being a head coach for 20 years, kind of in the minors or in the backwaters of Europe or whatever you want to call it. You know, when somebody calls your number and you get your chance to coach an NBA team, you got a couple, 1,000 or 1,500 games under your belt, and you are used to, like, you're ready for the experience. I think we did our apprenticeship in some funky places, but it was really a good apprenticeship, right?
Yeah.
So the mid 90s, you guys are in the British Basketball League. Chris, you're still playing at that time. You're with the Sheffield Forgers, and Nick had just taken over in the Birmingham Bullets.
Yeah.
Is that professionally when you guys first crossed paths? And I don't know that you guys knew each other at that time, but just crossed paths. He was still playing. You were coaching.
Yep, I was coaching the Birmingham Bullets. He was still playing for the Sheffield Sharks. Yeah, we played a few times in the regular season, the playoffs, and then I don't know. You did a player right to head coach.
Yep,
a couple years later.
27, I was given an opportunity to go from playing to coaching, and my playing career wasn't going anywhere fast, so I decided it was a good time to move over to coaching. You had gone to Belgium.
Yep.
And then my first year you were in Belgium, but you came back for my second year. He goes to Manchester, who was basically like our league rival. And then, then we had a really kind of like a 2-year, kind of rivalry where we were just trading championships with cups and all this other stuff. And famously in our relationship, Nick invited me to a Christmas Eve party at his house. That was the first time we ever really spoke, and we've been fast friends and ever since, and our paths are intermingled in so many ways. Like, to go back to the beginning of what the G League means, I would not be sitting here if it wasn't for Nick. He was the one who convinced me to come from Europe, because at that point I was coaching in Belgium, and he said, when I got the opportunity with the Houston Rockets, it was Daryl Morey, who is now his boss, who hired me and tried to convince me to come. And I initially turned him down, and I just had like some reservation because I just wasn't sure. And Nick said, "You got to come. You got to come. You got to come. It's going to make you a far better coach." And it was the best thing I ever did in my life, was come and coach in the G League.
You mentioned it took a little while before you guys became friends.
Yeah.
Was it just? It seems surprising to me that two Americans in England wouldn't. I don't know. Have a kind of. Was it just competition from that was it, and then finally Nick breaks the ice?
Yeah, I think a little bit of that. He's probably a little bit more outgoing than I am. Maybe he got tired of getting his ass kicked, and he wanted a few secrets.
That's true. That is true.
But in England, the league, it's a fairly small country, but it was a great league because you played a lot like the NBA. You could play 4 times a week. You could play on a Monday. You could play any given night, And a lot of European leagues are a lot like college. You might play like Wednesday, Saturdays. And when we weren't playing, we were scouting, and like we were the only other people scouting. So we'd drive like a high school coach to another team, watch and sit in the stands and talk. And so it kind of grew out of a lot of scouting too,
What's the biggest lesson you take from coaching in a league like that, where I don't imagine you have much of a staff, if at all, or a scouting department, a video department, anything like that? What kind of stories do you have from having to do so much, and what do you pull from that?
The thing you pull from it is you have to get it done, right? It's almost like somebody that starts a business and they just got to, no matter what it takes, you got to get it done. Like, I go back to my first job, there was no video guy, and I remember going to the store and buying a video camera and finding some guy that paid him $7 to film the games for me and hand me a little cassette tape afterwards,
Right.
And there's a list as long as it can go from there. You're driving lots of travel stories where your van's breaking down. When my first job, I wasn't old enough to drive. The head coach, which my backup center drove. He's still mad. He's still mad at me to this day. I was like 22 years old in England, and anyway, just a lot of stuff. You just do what you got to do to get it done. But as Chris already said, the players were pretty good, right? And being in front of them and orchestrating scouting reports and motivating them and trying to just figure out, like, learning how to get the most out of teams is really what we were getting out of it at 60, 70 games a year.
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, for me, it was about prioritizing the things that matter to winning the most. I mean, we didn't have the resources to have every, out of bounds play scripted that the opponent was going to run. We just didn't have, we couldn't cover as much ground. And now there's 16 coaches on my staff. I'm sure it's similar with Nick. We can literally, there's no stone unturned right now, and we can over prepare if we want to. And I kind of lean on it all the time. Now we're flooded with information, whether it be scouting, data analytics, all that kind of stuff. It's just sorting through it all. It's like, okay, this is what's going to help winning. And when you have a staff of one or one and a half, I had a part-time assistant coach for the first couple of years. You just got to get right to the main thing, and never deviate. And then the other thing, I think, to Nick's point, is just staying super flexible, whatever it might be. I mean, bus breaks down on the way to a game. You do the team meeting on the bus. You walk off the bus, you throw it up, and you go play, and you can't be bothered by all this. There's just so much out. And then when you playing in the European leagues, you fly to these really obscure places all over, Russia, Ukraine, Albania, etc. And if you're bothered by all that, your players are going to be bothered by it. So you just try to, no matter what's going on, you just try to maintain this sense that everything's going to be fine,
So you guys are having a ton of success against each other in the British Basketball League, and then you team up together to coach the Great Britain national team for the 2012 games in London. Obviously, you guys have the success, as I mentioned, but you are two Americans. How did you guys end up coaching that team?
I mean, I think it was just our history and affinity for having been in England I was there 10 years. You were probably there a little bit longer, maybe when it was all said and done. And then when they launched the Olympic program, they wanted somebody that was coaching at a higher level, maybe outside the country or had experience internationally. And they wanted somebody who also had a relationship with the players. The job was unpaid. The players were not really getting paid. So you just had to figure out who can help connect the dots. And that's kind of where it started. And then brought Nick on board, which was some of the most fun coaching we've ever done, because we work for a great boss. I reference our boss all the time. He was a non-basketball guy, but he just kept saying, be creative, we're the underdog, try whatever you want. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. He pushed us to break conventional coaching thinking just to try to, and Nick is super creative, one of the most creative people I ever worked with, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. And, the left-handed defense and all the things that we were just trying. And we played with three centers at one point, and so two centers was not a problem in the last couple of years. So that plus also coaching in the G League at the same time, which is extremely fluid. It forces you to be creative.
Yeah.
So.
Nick, your memories of that time?
Yeah, it really worked out good because I'd come to Iowa to coach the Energy, and that was a pretty long program every summer. So it fit in with what I was doing. It was kind of like an extra job. And again, I really learned a lot. Like he mentioned, I learned a lot from the offensive side of the ball from him during that time. I became immediately a better coach just after the first summer being with Great Britain. And we went to some unbelievable places. We had some long practices and long weeks, and really, again, trying to get the team to, super underdogs, right? Really, really playing against teams full of NBA players or full of EuroLeague players, and some of our guys weren't even playing.
Right.
They maybe just come out of college, or they didn't even have professional jobs. And I always say it's a shame we didn't win one more game in the Olympics, because we really had those guys playing great. We lost by 1 to Spain in the Olympics, and they won the silver medal. And,
Right.
we really, really had those guys playing great. It's a shame we just couldn't maybe get one more step further, because it was, what was it, Chris, 5, 6 years?
It was
7
6 years, yeah.
Yeah, 6 years of preparing for 2012, 6 summers, and yeah, it was cool.
Do you have memories of the left-handed defense? Can you explain that briefly? What was that?
I think I forgot that. No, just
Force everybody to shoot with their left hand?
Yeah. Take away the right hand was the whole thinking. Doesn't it sound complicated and creative?
Yeah. Like a lot of long nights spent thinking about it. Yeah. And you guys got a chance also to meet the Queen, didn't you? I mean, here another couple of Americans. Did you monopolize the Queen's time? I mean, what about your players who were from Great Britain? Didn't they want to meet the Queen?
So
Can
the
I go
Olympic.
first on this one?
Yeah.
Can I go first on this one? Then you can tell.
Yeah,
your-
you can go
tell
first
your
on this
big
one.
story, 'cause-
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So we're up we're in the Olympic Village, and just up there, we're watching film. We're
Yeah.
playing Russia in the first game, and we're watching film. And they'd asked us about several things to do. Hey, who wants to do this? And you'd say, yeah, let's go do it. They're gonna take you around the city, and it was like everything was like a 90-minute security check to like get out of the. And I was like. Somebody said, hey, does anybody want to meet the Queen? And I like opened the door. How long is the security check? They're like, she's just down at the bottom of the stairs. So we hop up, and like the whole Great Britain Olympic team is out in this big courtyard, and they like we literally walk down the stairs, and they go, you, and you line up here, like 7 of us, and which happened to be us 2, and here comes the Queen, right?
Yeah.
And the Queen comes up, and she says, oh. What do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a assistant coach for the men's senior national team, basketball team. She says, oh, you got to be quite tall to play basketball, don't you? I said, yeah, it helps. But anyway, now go ahead. I'll turn it over to you now.
Then about 10 feet, 20 feet behind comes Prince Philip, her husband, and looks at Nick and says, oh, you must be the wrestling coach, a guy of your size.
I knew that was coming.
But it was a phenomenal experience. Like I mean, we've had so many of those and just kind of pop up, and lucky. Met the Prime Minister that summer, so.
That's very, very cool. You mentioned being flexible and things going wrong and not having staffs and stuff. Did that translate too to the D-League at the time when guys are in and out of rosters seemingly all the time, and you probably prepare for a game and then all of a sudden be told probably quite late that maybe you wouldn't have your top guy or maybe 2 guys have been called up.
Oh, for sure. To this day, I think it's, kind of anchors me through a lot of change that we see that might happen. And in many ways in the NBA, it doesn't feel nearly as bad or as, as seismic, and you're always losing your best players in the G League. Or at the time, there was more call-ups too, and than there is now. But you were always losing your best players, so you just had to keep staying adaptable. Hit the high notes, play to your philosophy, but figure out a new path to get there. And again, I found that fun. After I embraced it, I found it really fun.
Yeah. Was that important to embrace that kind of environment? Because otherwise you'd probably just go crazy.
Yeah, it's the most difficult league to coach in because of all that. And again, back then it was a little different. Like I remember one time with the Energy, I think we went to 30-5, and we just won 4 games in a row on the West Coast by more than 25 points every one of them. And I got home and 4 guys got called up. And I think we went like 6-7 the rest of the season or whatever. Like
Right.
It just changes. But again, the next year you learn, okay, like again, you got to kind of tell these guys you're handling all this stuff. And that's the biggest thing. Like he mentioned buses breaking down, whatever. Like you got to get them to the floor and get them to believe there's a chance to win no matter what, right? Like no excuses, man. Let's just go compete and see what happens.
Does it feel like a long time ago, the D-League and overseas, now that you guys have both been in the NBA for quite some time and have expectations, pressures, success, but does that feel like a long time ago?
Well, I went out to Grandview yesterday to practice. That was 34 years ago. That was when I was the head coach at Grandview. That is a long time.
It is.
I don't like to think about that much. To be honest, like, am I really this old already? Man, this gym looks the same. But yeah, I guess so. It seems like a while ago, right? But we still got a job. We're still going.
Yeah. Do you ever think back to those Chris, and realize
Yeah, all
where
the
you are
time.
now?
Actually, all the time. And of course, there's massive pressure in this job, but the pressure is to win, and we drive that ourselves. I mean, I'll tell you what, like, you're in some of these European leagues, Nick can speak to this, we actually ended up both coaching in Belgium a bit, and if you lose to the wrong team 2 weeks in a row, you're gone. I mean, the emotional roller coaster of coaching in those leagues is wild. So felt just as much pressure that way. Or in Europe, I've coached multiple teams that went bankrupt in the middle of the season where you don't get paid. You got to get your guys to the floor. The only way you're going to get paid is if you play the game so they can take the gate receipts and try to pay you. That's pressure. Like, so all these pressures are all different, so you just have to embrace it as part of the landscape.
I coached a really high-pressure owner and team in Belgium, and I was going to the weekend game, getting fired if we lost, and I had most of the time after the interview, after the game, we'd win, and I'd hang on for another week, and I'd say, we gotta go unpack again. I was already packed up, ready to go. Yeah, so yeah. That's pretty true.
How do you handle pressure at this level now? I mean, both your teams have really big expectations year in and year out. How do you get your players to be relaxed, because they obviously perform their best when they're not stressed and thinking about other things, but how do you get them focused in and relax and enjoy the situation rather than let the situation dictate?
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, we just try to do a few things. We try to, as a coaching staff, we try to really work hard, right? Like, we really try to work hard and prepare so that practices are really good. They make sense. They're getting us to a better place. We try really hard to put a good game plan together for them, and just prepare them. I think that's what they really want. People say, "Oh my God, it must be so hard coaching those guys, making so much money." They really want your help. They really want to be prepared. They want you to put them in the best situations, and then that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out how to use them the best. Try to keep saying, like for me, and I know Chris is great at this too, because these are guys that have career shooting years all the time. We're trying to give them confidence, the super green light, you're going to make them. We want you to take those, don't put them in a box. Even though they got to play a role, you're always kind of trying to expand that role for them. So it's again, it's fun and creative and motivating for them. But I would, again, just like the simple things, man, work hard. Super prepared, right? Super direct with them, right? If there's a problem, man, you got to talk to them, right? If they're not doing something you want, you got to tell them you're not doing it right, and they, then they kind of build that up as you go, and that's it, man. You go in there wanting to win, and if you do all that, it usually comes out all right.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I think I would just add a couple things just to say, like, the modern athlete needs so much personal attention right now to help. You got to be personally invested in their individual path as much as you are in your team path, but of course the team outranks the individual. But they need to know that you're as committed to their career as they are. And a lot of those pressures or anxieties that come from different things, for them. It's not all performance. They got a lot on the line. They're trying to create generational wealth for families that desperately need it. And they're carrying a lot. And anytime you can help offload all that stuff, it helps them perform better too.
Has there been someone you would credit with being the biggest influence in your coaching career?
I mean, I said it before. Nick is got to be up there. Just working side by side with him and competing against him, and way back, I remember just Eagle offense back in Manchester. I had no idea what the triangle offense was. I'm diagramming it, watching this film, trying to break it down piece by piece. Just lots of different ways, and it's not just because we're sitting here. I get asked this question a lot. I was coaching at 27. I got my 10,000 hours super early, trying to figure it out. Stub my toe all the time. I didn't have time to watch what Greg Popovich was doing. As great of a coach as he is, no disrespect to him or anyone like that. It wasn't in my ecosystem, but guys that I was with and coaching and super valuable, smart. And then, we talked about our working together in the Olympic team. I think one of the final pieces of the puzzle for me, and I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. I worked with Nick in Toronto for half a season before I came on board here in Minnesota. And when I came into the league, I was kind of tabbed as an offensive guy. That's what the Rockets wanted me to do, offense, 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 offense. I really hadn't paid a lot of attention to defensive side of the ball, but working with Nick for those 30 games before I came over was a defensive masterclass for me. And at the time, I didn't know I would be given an opportunity to be a head coach, and again, and going right from that environment into somewhere where I had to fix the defense, I wouldn't have been prepared if I hadn't had that experience. So I'm a big believer that your journey prepares you for everything, and that's just the latest step. But I would say Nick is probably my biggest influence in coaching.
How about you, Nick?
Just to go on that is like, it really was insular over there, right? Like, so go back to the early mid-90s or mid-90s when we started, there was 4 channels in Britain. They weren't showing basketball, right? There wasn't internet. There wasn't like I couldn't just call up a game or go to a website. So I was watching. I was driving across the mountains to watch the Pennines. Hills.
Yeah, hills.
Yeah, Hills,
Yeah.
Pennines. Watched him play a lot. Going to London to watch people play a lot. Found a company in Germany that would send me 2 cassette tapes with 2 Bulls games on them every Friday. They would come. I was studying the triangle.
There it is.
Still trying to figure it out. Still trying to figure it out. And he talks about his off. I've already mentioned this, but I'll say it again. Like he talks about his off. He was known as the best offensive coach in the NBA, and it really, like that again, that first year in Britain, that really made me a better coach because I guess I was more defensive minded. So we bounced a lot of stuff off each other on the same path for sure. Got to give a shout out to my high school coach, Wayne Chanley. He was as good a fundamental basketball coach as there was. He comes to watch us practice, and he always says, "You're doing all my drills." I might as well be coaching the team, stuff like that. But shout out to him as well. Yeah.
It's just a preseason game tonight, but are you looking forward to taking the floor?
Sure. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Some good crowd support?
Yeah, I got a lot of people. I got a lot of stops twice in Des Moines, Grandview, Iowa Energy.
There you go.
Went to UNI, Carroll Kemper. I got to go meet about 100 and some of my family at 3:30. I got to go to do a Kate Kemper High School alumni thing at 4. And then I don't know how many suites we got to stop and see, Jenny, after that. So I'll be busy. I hope to make it by 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, right. That's what I was saying. Just be there by tip-off. And
I'm going to Jethro's barbecue.
here you go. And can you, just the final thing, can you guarantee Luka's going to play tonight? I think it'll make some people happy.
Luka will play tonight. I want to get out of the city alive, so that's, he'll play and he'll play a lot.
There we go. Chris Finch, Nick Nurse.
Thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming.
Great job.
Good job. Thank you. Good job.